What is going on, y'all? My name's Alan Sheriff, aka Alan the Sheriff of all things innovative, and welcome back to another episode of Getting Messy with Tech. We got a special episode today. We're going to be talking about Zoox's expansion to Austin, Texas, and Miami, Florida. And we're just going to be talking about autonomous vehicles in general today. I know it's really special. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about the ghost vehicles, you know what I'm saying? The vehicles that don't have any people inside of them, which is really scary when you think about it, but it's also very technologically advanced and interesting. Can't wait to jump into it. And I'm actually very excited to be doing this episode today because I actually took a wonderful trip down to Phoenix, Arizona not too long ago. It was absolutely beautiful. And then I saw it. An autonomous vehicle operated by Waymo in downtown Phoenix. Oh my goodness. It was the most insane thing I'd ever. I was so awestruck that I actually reached out into the street to try and wave one of them down, forgetting about the fact that it was a ghost vehicle, and my cousin had to pull me back off the street. He was like, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" I was like, yo, I'm so sorry. And this is my African cousin, by the way. I was like, yo, I'm so sorry, but I ain't mean it. I just wanted to get a good look inside the vehicle. I wanted that you to stop for me. He's like, no, you crazy. You'll die. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, it was extremely exciting for me because I wanted to go for a ride in one of those for the first time. Unfortunately, I couldn't, which really sucked. Because as soon as I got home, and I tried to, because that particular night, I wanted to pull up in style. I wanted to pull up to one of them downtown Phoenix clubs in style. So as soon as I got home and I tried to get a Waymo autonomous vehicle, I noticed that it was geofenced. And for some of y'all who don't know what that means, it basically means that those Waymo autonomous vehicle taxis can only operate in certain areas of downtown Phoenix. Meaning that they can't go out to your neighborhood or anything. It's geofenced. It can only operate within a certain part of the city. So that really sucked because I was sitting there like, so am I not getting picked up? Like, am I not macking tonight? But nah, anyway, it was still a very fun trip. I loved it out there. It was extremely beautiful. Anyway, let's get into it, y'all. So basically, we all know it's been real difficult for companies out here to make autonomous vehicles, right? And I mean on a very simple level. And I mean, we're talking about, not only, autonomous vehicles themselves, but what they can do, in terms of their taxi services, their delivery services, the whole 9 yards. It's been a very complicated industry. And you would think that because of how costly it is, to create these vehicles and the regulations surrounding them, and the distrust from the general public, that there was no way they were going to make this a reality. But a company called Zoox is not only ignoring all the noise, but they did the one thing everyone's been afraid of doing. They removed the steering wheel and the gas pedals. And it's freaking insane. So basically, Zoox is a self-driving technology company looking to go beyond the boundaries of conventional transportation and make their fully autonomous robo-taxi available on a nationwide scale. And they announced Wednesday, June 5th, that after testing in San Francisco, Las Vegas, and Seattle, they're looking to expand out to Austin, Texas, and Miami, Florida. Now let me be very specific and particular here. I don't think that they're going to be expanding the fleet that they're known for, the popular type of autonomous car that they're working on right now. They're not using those cars and expanding out to Austin, Texas. That's the one without the steering wheels that I was describing earlier. They're going to be sending their retrofitted Toyota Highlanders out there, which I think may or may not be operated by drivers just to fine tune their vehicles and their system and the way they operate within those particular areas. And they're going to be geofenced. So I don't think they're going to be expanding the fleet that I'm going to be talking to you about today there. But I think it's still amazing, every single time a company like this decides to expand to a whole nother different place because they're gathering the information and they're trying to figure out how their taxis operate there and, who would be interested in driving them and things of that sort. So it's really interesting. So a little bit of history. This company was founded 10 years ago in 2014, and it was founded in order to help reimagine transportation and bring forth the true meaning of a fully autonomous vehicle. And in 2018, the company became the first to offer self-driving transport services to the general public in California. Regardless of the lawsuit that was brought forth by Tesla in 2019 against this company, for believing that this company jacked all of its information, its proprietary information, in order to make their autonomous vehicles work, the company nonetheless was acquired by Amazon the following year. Amazon was like, nah, like, this man Jeff Bezos said, yeah, like, I'm not having any of it, bro. Like, Elon, like, get out of here, bro. Like, nah, this is mine. We own this space, bro. Just because you couldn't get yours off the ground doesn't mean that I can't help support this company be able to do it and make you look like an idiot in the process. So, nah, that was hilarious on Jeff Bezos' part. There was an undisclosed sum, in terms of, how much they actually had to pay Tesla. So that's the funny part. Like, Tesla ended up winning, but I don't have any details on that. But it was just hilarious when I was reading about it. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Are autonomous vehicles worth it? Like, in terms of investment, in terms of, all the efforts that's being put into them right now. For me personally, I'm a guy who likes to control his vehicle. So for me, like, I don't know. I guess it depends on who needs it. I mean, I know there are people who, have physical disabilities, so I understand how it would be a lot easier for, people with those type of disabilities to be able to access these vehicles in order to get around and do things that they, want to be able to do in their everyday to day life. But me, I just, it's, we're going to get into it. There's a trust factor that I think a lot of people are missing out on here. I think that there are a lot of people, who aren't as, ready to jump into this new world of using autonomous vehicles in their day-to-day life. But just in general, I just think I like having control over my vehicle, especially when it comes to life and death situations. Like, I do not want to be that type of guy that's behind, I'm sitting in the back seat of a ghost vehicle that's driving me around, and then all of a sudden it says, like, error, failure, failure in its way to failure in its ability to be able to maneuver around this corner. So it just makes a sharp turn or something, and then all of a sudden it collides with another vehicle. Like, anything can happen. And so for me personally, I just like being in control. I think the only way I see autonomous vehicles taking over in the next, 10 years or so in this particular, stage that we are in life, the only way I see them taking over is if you literally deprived an entire generation, like, access to vehicles through cost and rigorous training and stuff in that sort. Like, literally Gen Z would have to be like, yo, it's too hard to drive. It's too much to be able to afford a vehicle. That's the only way that these autonomous vehicles are taking over, bro. Like, that's the only, other than that, I feel like they're going to have a hard time adopting them too. But I think it's hilarious. Anyway, and yeah, that goes back to this quick stat that I literally found online. In 2023, a YouGov poll was taken, and it found that 76% of Americans are very or somewhat worried about driverless vehicles. And 68% of them feel unsafe as a passenger in autonomous vehicles, and 56% oppose self-driving taxis in their own town. That's insane. 56% of people oppose self-driving taxis in their town. We're going to get into the economics of this too, because I think it's really important to have this conversation. I think that there are a lot of companies right now that are doing great things in this space who are innovating, like Zoox, which is the company that, I'm talking about today, right? Because I want to shed light on the fact that they're like the first to be trying to do this in the US, where they've created this vehicle that doesn't have a steering wheel, that doesn't have pedals, that has the seats that face themselves and have people inside the vehicles where they can interact and, not worry too much about driving around and stuff. But you have to remember, like, there's the trust factor. Like, people will feel unsafe to a certain degree when it comes to vehicles like these because they have no control. And the burden gets put on the company, the people who are creating this technology, the people who need to be able to reassure every single day through factors that you can't control that people will be safe. And I feel like that is the biggest thing, and that is what these companies need to be careful thinking about moving forward. So yeah, so just off the bat, would I get into an autonomous vehicle? I mean, it all goes back to my story from earlier, right? I wanted to give it a try, and that's because I knew that to some degree that this autonomous vehicle was geofenced, meaning it was operating in a particular area with certain, with a certain predetermined route that they factored into its system that it would use whenever it would pick up riders. So I'm like, okay, I actually want to try this. Like, yeah, it'd be kind of weird if like I got like picked up and I found out there was like this random old dude like in the front seat like talking about, so, yeah, let's go for a ride, Sonny. And I'm just like, wait, hold on, this ain't the type of ride that I thought I was gonna be getting today. But but nah, yeah, it's the only thing that was going through my head was, yo, I'm going to come into this with an open mind. Let's see if I feel safe in the vehicle. Let's see, let's figure out whether or not, it's comfortable. Like, I like the atmosphere. Like, I like the trip. I like the way the computer's talking to me. Things of that sort. So that's what I wanted to take a look at. But in terms of like a fully autonomous vehicle one day, I know it's going to happen. I know it's possible, but I'm just not sure if I'm ready and willing to give up all of that until I see. Which is the sad part about it, right? Is that until I see a whole bunch of other people doing it first, just based off the strength of trust. And I feel like that's something that, a lot of these technology companies need to keep on tuning in for. So, yeah. So, will autonomous vehicles be dangerous to us? It's possible. And these technology companies are doing every single thing they can to make sure that, the rides are facilitated, that the process is seamless, that rest assured they're going to be safe throughout the entire ride. But, I mean, we know just based off common sense that, some of these autonomous vehicles, like, they operate based on, Bluetooth technology or other different types of technology that other people can gain access to externally. Or people can just use devices, attach them to cars, and somehow hack their way in. It's something that these companies very much need to take into consideration moving forward. They need to take this seriously because, these things can happen. And so what are they going to do, thinking out ahead in order to make sure that if something like this does happen, they're making sure that people are going to be safe or won't have to worry about it at all. So, that's really important. Also, people forget, this is going to affect a lot of people. This is going to affect people who are taxi drivers themselves. Not only is there a lot of anxiety around autonomous vehicles, but there also is a lot of anxiety about how it's going to impact human beings, or just even the environment in general too, if it doesn't operate based on renewable energy, given that these cars are constantly driving around day in and day out, like, they're, or people who just might lose their, livelihoods. Like, I mean, I know Uber shut down their autonomous vehicle taxi driving thing, a while ago. I don't know if it's because they did it out of the goodness of their heart or because they recognized it wasn't economically feasible. But, like, this is something that, that is going to affect a lot of people if they are able to get it off the ground. So that's also part of the reason why some people might not be on board with this whole fully autonomous thing. It's like, yo, it's not safe. And if you do make it happen, like, like, where am I going to make money? Yeah, like, the gig economy is disappearing too. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. Let's also not forget, again, this industry comes with its flaws. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration launched an investigation into potential flaws that some of these companies have been having, whether it's Zoox, I think Cruise was involved. I think there's another company, I can't remember straight up off the top of my head, but definitely Zoox, Cruise, I can't remember the other company. But a lot of these companies have been experiencing these errors, and I'm not going to say that they're perfect. I'm not going to say they shouldn't be, like, experiencing these flaws, these errors along the way, but it only makes sense why these organizations, right, like the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, would want to investigate, look into these issues that they're having, because people need to know that they're going to be safe. Like, you can't just put these things on the road, put people in them, and be like, hey, this is brand new technology, we're changing the world. Like, bruh, I'm telling you right now, if I'm crossing the street and I'm looking like that one little kid from Robot Chicken where I'm just, like, scrunched up, like, and that car's coming towards me, bruh, and that joint doesn't stop, we're going to have problems. We are going to have problems, bruh. Like, it's not a game. It's real. So, yeah. So, again, that brings me back to probably, I think, the most important aspect of this entire conversation. Will autonomous vehicles be commercially successful? Not in this day and age. Well, okay. I will say that I'm not sure if they're going to be commercially successful within this decade or the next decade, probably the decade after that. I don't know, maybe like 2050. The only reason I keep pushing it back is because I've noticed that Zoox has literally been around for 10 years. And they just started testing their autonomous vehicle well, I mean, some drivers are in some drivers are in the driver's seat, but what I'm trying to say is that they've been doing this for 10 years and they just started testing their fleet. You know what I mean? On on the streets of Austin and Miami, where they're going to be expanding to. So I think that it's important to consider the fact that they're moving slow, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It takes time for these technologies to develop out, but you can't forget about the fact that this industry has been experiencing a lot of trouble. A lot of these companies have been getting snatched up. So you talk about Zoox, right, who just got snatched up by Amazon. They need the capital, and Amazon's giving them the capital to test and grow and develop their tech. They wouldn't have been able to do that on their own, which is why they probably even got snatched up in the first place. So the biggest thing to understand is that these companies, this industry is moving slow, so I don't know if it'll be commercially successful and will operate on a global, let alone even like a national scale. But it's important to remember that these things take time and that they will develop out, but I don't know if they'll be profitable. They're losing a lot of money. They're burning through a lot of cash right now. So the idea is to just make sure that the technology works safely and that they're just trying to test and make sure that these cars are gathering as much information as they can so they know how to operate in different environments and such and such. But it's a very complex industry, and there's so many moving factors. There's money, there's investment, there's trust, there's regulations, there's so much involved. So a lot of people, I think these are issues that a lot of these companies are going to need to take into consideration moving forward. So again, as I said before, I would say just the biggest drawbacks that this technology and this particular industry is going to experience moving forward is not only cash, but public distrust, government regulation, access. I think access is going to be a big thing, right? Because it's not like these cars are going to be able to operate everywhere. And I'm not sure if a lot of people are even going to be able to afford them. But I applaud Aisha Evans, who's actually the CEO of Zoox, because I believe on a interview that I saw her on, she went about explaining how this company will eventually make money in the future. And that is that, even though they're putting as much money as they can into the technology, as soon as they get the final product, since nobody's operating these vehicles and they'll just be driving around and around and around picking up people, they'll eventually, break even. They'll start making a profit eventually at some point because nobody's operating these vehicles. I don't know how much it's going to cost to keep the technology running, but I love the way she broke it down. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that I'm just not entirely sure about the future of these companies moving forward. So as soon as the sooner they start addressing some of these issues, the much better of a position they'll be in. But and basically, like I said before, the basic sentiment around this technology is that, with people feeling uncertain about, autonomous vehicles, what it's going to mean for people's livelihoods, whether or not they can even trust getting into one of these vehicles, I feel like it's going to keep the industry or just the technology developing out and expanding the way the leaders would want the technology to do so. And unfortunately, since people are skeptical of the technology, and you have people like me who just want that control, or you're going to have to prove to me that absolutely nothing is going to happen to me when I'm in that vehicle, which is impossible. There's so many factors that you can't control. So I think that sentiment is a really big thing here. I think sentiment is a really important part of the conversation, and moving forward, these are some things that the industry leaders are going to need to take into consideration. Anyway, that's it for this episode, y'all. Really appreciate, y'all tuning in for this episode. Hopefully, we'll have more conversations about this in the future, depending on, which of these companies decide to expand themselves, the progress that they're making. I know that they're dealing with, some investigations right now with the organization I mentioned earlier, but, hopefully they'll be able to get past that and we'll see the technology develop out more and more. I'm very, optimistic about, the technology developing itself out, especially because of AI. I think AI is going to be a huge factor here. But again, in terms of it being commercially successful, in terms of seeing, adoption from people, over the next couple decades, that's going to be pretty difficult. You're going to have early adopters, which are going to help shape perception a bit. But, I mean, let's keep it real, bro. Like, until those leaders put their children in those vehicles, I don't know, bro. I don't know. But anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, y'all. Really appreciate it. Make sure y'all check us out on all podcast hosting sites. Doesn't matter what it is. We're everywhere, bro. Make sure you check us out on IG at Messy with Tech. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Get Messy with Tech. And if you're watching this right now on YouTube, please comment below in the comment section. Let me know about how you feel about autonomous vehicles, whether or not you would ride in them joints. I know most of y'all probably wouldn't ride in them joints, but I'm just getting this from the poll. Like, for some of y'all non-believers out there, you're probably like, nah, bro. Like, get all those statistics out of here. It's fake news. But either way, voice your opinions. Let me know what's good. Let me know how you feel about this. And we will officially see y'all in the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. And you just got messy with the tech, y'all. Peace out.